Peace, everybody. It's Marc Lamont Hill. As I promised, I said I'd be here to talk to y'all about the news that tomorrow in DC, there will be a major rally for Israel. It's called literally the Rally for Israel. And the Rally for Israel is expected to hold about 100,000 people. And this crowd of 100,000 people are there to show their support for the state of Israel. They are there to call for the release of hostages. They are there to show their solidarity with the Jewish state, and they are there to denounce anti-Semitism. Let's first be very clear here. Very clear. I 100%, 1000% support the release of hostages. I 100%, 1000%, 1,000,000% support all efforts to denounce anti-Semitism, to fight anti-Semitism, to dismantle anti-Semitism, to end anti-Semitism. That is not in dispute here. No one here is denouncing Jewish people, denying the legitimacy of struggles to end anti-Semitism. And I want to be very clear in this chat, I don't want to see any anti-Semitic language, any anti-Semitic tropes, any anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. I don't want to see none of that. That's not what this is about. This is about the Rally for Israel, which is not just speaking out against anti-Semitism. The Rally for Israel tomorrow is also affirming our solidarity, our United States citizens' solidarity with Israel as a state, with Israel as a country, with Israel as an entity that at the present moment is fully besieging Gaza, that at the moment continues to fully occupy the West Bank, that at the moment continues to have different citizenship rights, different levels of equality or any structural inequality inside the state of Israel. This is what we are talking about. This is what I'm speaking out against. I'm saying that tomorrow's rally for Israel is not just about the innocent civilians. We should mourn their death. We should call for the release of hostages. We should denounce anti-Semitism. But what's happening at the Rally for Israel, and this is why I'm mad at Van Jones, not mad at Van Jones, I'm disappointed in Van Jones, is that this rally is also affirming the legitimacy of Israel's actions in this moment. It's called the March for Israel. Today, 8 speakers were announced at the March for Israel. And I'm going to get into at least 2 of them. Natan Sharansky, human rights activist and former political prisoner. Omer Adam, the musician. Ishai Ribo, musician. Tova Feldscher, Broadway actress. Deborah Messing, many of us know her, big fan, actress and advocate. Michael Rappaport, actor, also comedian, internet personality, critic, journalist at the big three, excuse me. Like, I know Michael Rappaport, big fan of Michael Rappaport's work, don't agree with him politically on this issue. Then there's 2 folk who stand out to me. Dr. Rochelle Ford, Dillard University president, and Van Jones, author, lawyer, and civil rights advocate. Now, I don't know much about Dr. Rochelle Ford, so I won't get into the specifics of her story. What I will say is, as the president of an HBCU, I am disappointed that she has taken this opportunity to take a position that counters, I think, the political principles or the highest political ideals of historically Black colleges and universities. Now, there's a long history of Black colleges and universities supporting Israel. There's a long support network and support tradition of Black colleges and universities with Jewish Americans, with Jewish advocacy groups, and with the NAACP, as well as AIPAC, All these relationships are longstanding. Many HBCUs receive trips to the Holy Land. Many HBCUs get opportunities to travel and visit and see Israel. And they get very specific, narrowly guided tours that have them returning with the belief that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East that's besieged by all these awful, barbaric neighbors, and it just has to defend itself, and that they are entitled to the right to sustain the status quo on the ground. So I know HBCUs are often heavily influenced by these things, but I'm curious to know why Dr. Rochelle Ford, of all the HBCU presidents, of all the leaders, decided to step up and make this choice. I'm curious to know, is it the Christian roots? Is it the evangelical connection? What is the thing? We about to get to Van Jones, though. I'm not trying to keep y'all too long. We're going to talk about Van Jones right now, my brother Van Jones, who I know quite well. And by the way, hit the subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button. This is how we keep this platform going. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if y'all into this. If y'all really want to understand what I'm talking about, hit the like button. Show that you're with me. Show that you're paying attention. It lets people know that this stream is going and that this platform is moving. So listen to me, y'all. Van Jones is a speaker at the March for Israel. Why is this so disappointing to me? For several reasons. Van Jones has a long history of activism and organizing work. He started doing organizing work in Oakland. He co-founded the Ella Baker Center, the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights. For human rights. He literally organized and began and founded an organization advocating for human rights. He was in the Obama administration as a green jobs czar before he got railroaded because of his radical past, because of his ostensibly socialist leanings, because they said he was too radical and they were already trying to make Obama look like a crazy radical with a crazy preacher from Chicago, Jeremiah Wright, and that he was a secret communist, secret Muslim, secret all the things, right? They made him a shadowy figure. And so Van Jones became expendable and disposable in the Obama administration. And so Van Jones continued to do the work. He continued to stay out in the world. He continued to be a voice, a critical voice, a left-wing voice, advocating for justice, advocating for green jobs, advocating for environmental justice, advocating for the end of police violence against all citizens. He has been a critical and consistent voice for justice. So I have an expectation for Van Jones. Some of these Negroes I don't expect much from. But I had an expectation that Van Jones would do the right thing. I had an expectation that Van Jones would speak truth to power. And here's the thing, Van Jones is smart. He ain't just stumble into Yale, and you ain't got to go to Yale to be smart. A whole lot of smart folk ain't never been to a college. A whole lot of smart folk went to HBCUs. A whole lot of smart folk went to public universities. A whole lot of smart folk did co-ops and political education in Black bookstores. I'm not saying the Yale thing makes him smart, but it's a hell of a sign that he knows something. And so Van Jones is not confused about this issue. And yet he's still speaking at a pro-Israel rally on Tuesday in Washington, D.C. Why? Now, some of you would say, well, he wants to denounce anti-Semitism. This rally wants to denounce anti-Semitism. I'd say, cool. He should denounce anti-Semitism. I should denounce anti-Semitism. You should denounce anti-Semitism. We should all denounce anti-Semitism. Even as we struggle for Palestinian freedom, safety, dignity, self-determination, and justice, we must simultaneously also be committed equally to the protection of Jewish people around the globe and fighting for their safety, dignity, self-determination, and overall justice. We got to do those things simultaneously. They're not competing agendas. They're not competing claims. Everybody must be safe. Everybody must get justice. You can't get justice at a pro-Israel rally. People say, well, he wants to mourn the victims. of the awful attacks on October 7th, those 1,400 civilians from Israel who were killed. I mourn their deaths. It's an awful tragedy. I know people who lost children. I know people who lost family. I know people who were kidnapped or whose and I don't know people who were kidnapped. I know people whose niece, I'm thinking of one person in particular, a colleague of mine, whose niece and her husband were kidnapped. I get it. I see the pain. The way to resolve this pain, the way to get justice is not to go to a pro-Israel rally, Van Jones. This is irresponsible. This is disappointing. This is mind-bogglingly uh like bereft of any kind of moral legitimacy. That rally is to speak out against anti-Semitism, cool. It's to demand hostages to be returned, fine. But it's also to show and stand in solidarity with Israel, the country, the government, the state. Van Jones, how can you stand in solidarity with an apartheid state? And you're too smart not to know that it's an apartheid state. How can you stand publicly and not demand a ceasefire? Are you going to get on that podium and demand a ceasefire? Are you going to get on that podium and say that in addition to hostages being returned, we must have all disproportionate force ended now? That we must have all indiscriminate fire stopping now? That we need a complete ceasefire immediately? Are you going to say that? Are you going to stand up on the stage and talk about the various war crimes that Netanyahu has committed? Are you going to talk about the various violations and contraventions of international law that Israel has committed? Are you going to do that, Van Jones? Because if you do that, then I'm okay. If you're going to do that on some Kanye West, George Bush doesn't love black people at the Katrina special standing next to Mike Myers, I'm riding with you. But you haven't shown that, Van. You're not demonstrating that, my dear brother. This is unthinkable. Again, I support your right to stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters. You should. But by standing there at that rally, you reinforce the false narrative that Zionism is Jewishness. That the only possible way to support Jewish people is to support an apartheid state. That you're equating the practices of the Israeli government and the Israeli state with Judaism, which itself is an act of anti-Semitism. I'm not calling you anti-Semitic, Van Jones. I'm saying that it's problematic to equate our Jewish brothers and sisters with any kind of statecraft in the same way that it's problematic to equate Christians with any nation or Muslims with any nation or any ethnic identity with any nation overall. I don't want to hold all Jewish people accountable for what Israel is doing. Israel's a government. A government can be criticized. A government can be challenged. Israel can't be the only government that's challenged. Israel can't be held to an exceptional standard. Israel can't be made to meet requirements that no other nation has met. That would be anti-Semitic. That would be isolating Israel. We cannot do that either. What we can do is say that Israel, like all nations, has a right to self-defense, but does not have a right to unlimited self-defense. It has a duty to be proportionate. It has a duty to be discriminate between civilian and military targets. It has a duty to provide, as an occupying power, food, electricity, water, basic necessities. These aren't favors. So when you collectively punish the Gazan people for the actions of Hamas, collective punishment. When you cut off electricity and water to hospitals, collective punishment, war crime. When you force people to leave their homes and don't let them back in, forced transfer of people, war crimes. Y'all with me? When you blow up mosques and synagogues and schools in violation, again, of Geneva Conventions, Hague, war crimes. And so when you stand there, Van Jones, my dear brother, and I'm not saying this condescendingly, you are my dear brother. I worked with you. I know you. I've spoken to you publicly and privately. I love you, my man. This just ain't the way to go. This is not okay. When you stand up there against the backdrop of all these war crimes that are happening right now. I'm not even talking about the history of Israel, Palestine. I'm talking about right now, Palestinians continue to be killed. They continue to be the victims of a genocide. And in the midst of that, you're saying, I stand with Israel, who's prosecuting this war, who's engaged in this genocide. I'm not asking you to stand with Hamas. Brother, I'm not even asking you to stand with Palestine right now. I'm simply saying you cannot, in the middle of an onslaught of disproportionality, stand up and say that you support Israel's actions, that you stand in solidarity with Israel. That cannot happen. And I see people in the comments section saying, he's doing it for the money. I don't know if I don't think there's any money in it. I don't think that this is some uh, financial conspiracy that plays into, again, these anti-Semitic tropes, these anti-Semitic narratives. I don't think that's what it is. Some of you say that he's doing it um, for power. Again, plays into this idea of cobbles of Jewish power, anti-Semitic trope. We have to reject that. We have to reject the anti-Semitic narratives and the anti-Semitic tropes. What we can wonder about, though, is his motivation. I wondered his motivation after Kanye West stood up for a whole month and just continued to spew anti-Semitic narratives, anti-Semitic claims. I mean, Kanye West was off the deep end with his anti-Semitism. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't unclear, it was specific. And Van Jones stood up in front of a crowd of people and said that he wanted to apologize for the Black community's silence. We didn't say nothing when it was a drip, and now it's coming all the way out the faucet. He's basically saying that Black folk weren't outraged by anti-Semitism. That is not true. That has never been true. But he threw us under the bus. I'm worried that at this rally, he's going to do that again. That he's going to make it seem as if Black people or Muslims or brown people are somehow anti-Semitic until proven otherwise, or that we don't care about our Jewish brothers and sisters until proven otherwise. That's not it at all. Black people right now, in general, we're not a monolith, but in general, are outraged at what happened on October 7th. We're disgusted by the loss of those 1,400 Israeli civilian lives. Black people, though, are also morally sophisticated enough, morally mature enough to simultaneously say that those Palestinian children's lives are worth just as much. And we can't, in good conscience, go to a rally supporting the Israeli government at the time that it continues to wage an onslaught against those very children. They may not be aiming at the children, but they're indifferent to the suffering of the children based on what the government has said, based on what representatives have said, based on what military experts have said, based on the interviews I've done personally with the representatives of the Israeli government. They have said that the children are just collateral damage. Some members of the Knesset have said that they want to prosecute another Nakba. They want another ethnic cleansing. They want another great catastrophe like 1948. They're saying this. The Biden administration is probably Freudian. The Biden administration refuses to call for a ceasefire. Van Jones, your platform right now should be used to call for a ceasefire. You should be demanding that Joe Biden call for a ceasefire. You have the bully pulpit. You have access to Donald Trump. You have access to Joe Biden. You have access to these extraordinary figures. You have a huge platform. You should not be using it to normalize the Israeli government's violent onslaught against Palestinian people. You should not be using it to normalize the idea that an apartheid state is the only way for us to have democracy and safety for our Jewish brothers and sisters. Instead, I need you to be courageous. I need you to speak the truth. And this rally ain't it, bro. I watched you say that this was the first time that Donald Trump became president. You watched Donald Trump give a speech and you said this is the first time where he became the president. And you kind of gave him space to be legitimized. In retrospect, I have to wonder if you would do that again, knowing that Donald Trump continued to prosecute wars against the vulnerable, wars against the poor, wars against our brothers and sisters south of the border, wars against LGBTQ, for wars against knowledge, wars against our history books, wars against race talk in school, wars against every semblance of the social safety net. Did he really become the president of everybody? I don't think so. Will this be another moment where your attempt to be loving and welcoming and ecumenical serves to legitimize something that shouldn't be legitimized? Maybe that's what you're doing. Maybe this is your idea of saying I'm going to be open arms. I don't want to read you cynically, my dear brother. I don't want to read you cynically. But it's hard not to wonder what the heck you're thinking right now, speaking at this rally. You come out of a radical tradition. What does the Black radical tradition say about this issue? What did Malcolm X say about this issue? What would Ella Baker be saying about this issue? The woman after whom you founded your center. What did the Panthers, you're in Oakland organizing, what would the Panthers say about this? What did the Panthers say about this? What did Huey Newton say about this? We ain't got to guess. What did SNCC say about this? You ain't got to guess, my brother. You can just look through history. But I know you know that history, and that's why I'm so frustrated. Because I know that you know better. Family, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I ain't gonna be here long. I also want to shout out. Two people: Tracy Jones, who just joined the MLH fam as a bronze member. Also, Masood Shad 89. Thank you for doing the same thing. Anybody else, if you want to hit the join button and join a membership, that's what keeps this platform going. That's what gives me the space, the time, and the resources to be able to do this work and to be able to offer this kind of critical analysis, this type of conversation, to construct this kind of community where we can do political education, where we can do intellectual deep dives, where we can talk about current events, where we ain't got to wait for a news cycle or a TV platform to welcome us on. We can just do the work. Because if we speak the truth, and it's dangerous, when we speak out against the gun lobby, when we speak out against multinational corporations, when we challenge big box retailers, when whatever the thing might be, we make ourselves politically marginal. But it's okay to work from the margins, fam. That's what we're supposed to do. That's how we build. That's why I ask y'all to hit that join button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button right now so we can continue to grow and build, because it means a lot, yo. I don't demand that everybody speak up on every issue. I didn't, like I said, I didn't need Van Jones to speak on this issue. He's been relatively silent, honestly, on the question of Israel-Palestine, as far as I know. I looked at his Twitter to see if he'd been speaking on the issue. Let me look now. I'm gonna look down so y'all I don't want y'all to think I'm bugging. I'm gonna check again, but I have not seen him do a search too on X or Twitter, whatever the heck you want to call it. Yeah, I don't see anything. I've never heard him speak in defense of Palestinians, but I've also never heard him support the Israeli state. I know that he has strong relationships with people like Jared Kushner, who are strong advocates of Israel. I know that he works across the aisle. His reform work on prisons has made him often say, you know, I work with Democrats, Republicans, whatever it takes to get the job done. And look, I ain't mad at that. Organizing to get people free is what matters. Whatever will work is what we need to do. Brandon Stark says the join button does not appear for me any other way. Once you subscribe to the channel, the join button should be right there. It should be right to the right or the left. I'm not exactly sure how else to do it. Otherwise, you might have to do it afterward. Rashim Abdullah, thank you so much, my brother, for welcome to the fam as well. Appreciate you. If Van Jones had said nothing, I wouldn't be bugging. Rochelle Cruz here says, it looks like back in 2009, he was interviewed at UC Berkeley. He supported Palestinian rights. I don't doubt that. Who doesn't support even Zionists will say they support Palestinian rights. That feels like fairly low hanging fruit. I'm not saying that against you, Rochelle. I appreciate your comment. I'm saying if he feels that way, if he actually does support Palestinian rights, then how could he be right now at this moment speaking up and defending the state of Israel as it is waging an onslaught, an onslaught, an onslaught against the Palestinian people, the likes of which we have not seen since 1948. I don't get what he's trying to do. I get the idea of wanting to be loved and liked and being able to maneuver between Democrats and Republicans and being able to be the voice in the room that can bring everybody together. I'm with that. But at this moment, we need people to speak powerful and dangerous truths. And it may alienate you a little bit. And I'm not just talking to Van Jones right now, I'm speaking to all of us. We have to be willing to do that. Now, one of those truths is that the Palestinian people are vulnerable not just to premature death in a way that we haven't seen it maybe ever, but that they're on the verge of being completely wiped out of the Gaza Strip. That is not hyperbolic. That is a fact. Now, we have to be able to do that, have that conversation while keeping track of the humanity of those 1,400 Israeli civilians who were killed. We have to keep track of their humanity. We have to release hostages. We got to be able to do all that stuff. This is not uncomplicated in a certain way, but in other ways, it's quite simple. Ceasefire now. End the violence now. And in a big picture, we have to end the siege on the Gaza Strip. We have to create the space for democratic Palestinian self-determined rule in Gaza and in the West Bank. We need to create Palestinian liberation and freedom. We have to be able to do that. But how does that happen? It can't happen if we continue to give Israel $3.8 billion a year and now are fighting for 10, 11 billion more to send over. It can't happen if we continue to censure people like Rashida Tlaib for speaking the truth. We can't happen if we continue to criminalize dissent, if we continue to ban students for justice in Palestine and Jewish voices for peace at schools, universities like Columbia University, although they fought and they got the decision reversed today. Shout out to Palestine Legal. We cannot afford to ignore these realities. We cannot afford to stop fighting. So I'm gonna leave it there. We gotta fight. And it's not easy. And we can't be popular. Van Jones, going to the rally, the March for Israel tomorrow, and speaking at the March for Israel tomorrow and legitimizing Israel's actions and practices is morally irresponsible and indefensible. I love you, my brother, but you are 100% wrong to do this. Again, you have every right to speak out against anti-Semitism. We all should. You have every right to demand the release of hostages. We all should. We have every right. You have every right to mourn the loss of the lives already gone. We all should. But that's not what this rally is about. That's not what this rally is about. This rally is a solidarity rally for the state of Israel, supporting this right-wing, extremist, racist Israeli Netanyahu government. And we can't be a part of that. Not if we articulate ourselves and represent ourselves to believe in freedom. And that's what I've always understood you to be about. Even if I didn't agree with a tactic or didn't understand a perspective, I knew that you loved the vulnerable. I knew you loved the poor. I knew you loved Black and brown people. I knew you loved the struggle for freedom and were committed to it. But these actions don't reflect that, Van. So I'm disappointed, and I hope that we get a chance to get your response. I also look forward to hearing your speech. I won't be at the rally. You'd be shocked to know, but I will listen to your words. I will read the transcript. I'll watch the video, and hopefully you surprise us. You shake up the room. I'm looking forward to being surprised. Anyway, y'all, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that join button. We'd love to have you join the MLH fam. If not, just hit that subscribe button, hit that like button one last time so the people can feel you in the room. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Free to land. I'll see y'all soon.